May the Noble Triple Gem bless you all. Today also we meet once again with a session of the Lord Buddha's teaching. I hope during our previous sessions you must have learned something and been applying so far. And that application into your day-to-day life must have had a great impact to change your life for the betterment. So today also we will be discussing some practical aspects to make your life better and to develop yourself as a great human being who doesn't suffer no matter what happens around him. So before doing so, let us pay our homage to the Perfect One by chanting the Namaskara 3 times. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Dear children, we were talking about how to maintain our pleasant mindset in our very initial sessions. Along the course, we talked about how to apply the teachings of the Lord Buddha while maintaining the pleasant mindset. Today, we are going to look at the life that we live in a kind of different perspective. People always talk about sadness, suffering, frustration, stress, especially children. When they are about to face their exams, they might be undergoing a huge level of stress. There's a separate entity called exam stress. Have you been through once? Of course. It's very common to all the children. Sometimes teachers say that if you study, if you do all the work that you have to do on time without procrastinating them, you won't have the stress that you're going to feel just before the exam. Yes, we can agree with that to some extent, but no matter how hard you study, you will feel some amount of stress. And that feeling we don't like. The feeling of stress is so frustrating. It makes us nervous. And we become very anxious because of the stress. And sometimes it is said that some amount of stress is actually good. Sometimes it is said that it motivates you. But, dear children, if you would like to have some amount of stress to motivate you, then that means the people who are motivated are always stressed. Do you agree with that? What do you think about the Lord Buddha? What do you think about the great elders that existed? Did they have stress? Were they anxious? Were they nervous? I don't think so. For example, the great elder Mahakassapa, he organized the first Sangha Council, and that was a huge task for his caliber. And while organizing this, do you think that he became stressed? I don't think so. But he continued to organize everything, and he did it. But without absolutely no stress. Dear children, you can face your exams without any stress. And stress is not beneficial in any aspects. We can eradicate that stress. There is a way. But before that, we have to identify what is the correct cause of stress. People say that the main cause of stress is the absence of something. For example, some people say that I become stressed because I don't have enough health. I have this disease, therefore I become stressed. Sometimes people say that I become stressed and I become sad because I don't have something to eat. There's a separate entity called stress eating. There are people called stress eaters. And that might be very common in this day and age. And people find it very soothing to eat something while they are stressed. And eating will make them out of the stress. That is what people believe. Let's look at it. Let's analyze it, whether this is the true cause of stress. Whether absence of something could give rise to the stress. We all know that an effect will manifest only with the presence of causes. If the causes are present, the effect is also present. If the causes are absent, the effect is absent. Can any cause, if it is absent, will give rise to the presence of causes? That is illogical. Do you agree? Because absence of causes will not give rise to presence of suffering. If the cause is absent, the suffering should also be absent. When the cause is present, the effect is present. When the cause is absent, the effect will be absent. If you think you suffer because of absence of something, that doesn't make any sense. I think you would agree with me. If you think that I become stressed because I didn't study hard, you didn't study hard. That means there is a lack of something. There is absence of studying. Can the suffering be secondary to absence of something? Suffering is present and the cause is absent. That doesn't make any sense. Dear children, when we analyze it with a deep sense of wisdom, we come to know this, that the presence of suffering cannot be caused by absence of the cause. The cause should always be present. The presence of cause will give rise to presence of suffering. Let's look at, by using an analogy, let's take this example. This is a story. Would you like to hear a story? Of course, you would. So this is a story of a man who is a smoker. Smoking is a very bad habit. And in this day and age, especially the youngsters, they have got this bad habit of smoking. Some youngsters, when they are exposed to the bad association, because of the bad association, it is natural to think that certain practices that are being done by their friends is very pleasurable. Therefore, they are naturally intended to do that practices in their life. Let's say this young man who is 20 years old get the practice of smoking. And he continues to do this practice, and after 20 years, another 20 years, he becomes a chain smoker. Chain smoker means they smoke cigarettes back to back. With the end of another cigarette, they light a fresh one. They cannot get away with the cigarettes. So this 40-year-old man, who is a chain smoker, develops a cough, which is rather troubling him. And he goes to his doctor. And the doctor doesn't even care about it at once. He thinks that it's a viral cough, so I'll give you a cough syrup. Don't worry. It'll wither away within a day or two. So this doctor gives the cough syrup. And he takes it. He consumes the cough syrup and the cough is settled. On day 2, there's no cough. So the cough syrup is enough for 5 days. And during these 5 days, he doesn't have any cough. But what happened when he stopped the cough syrup? When the cough syrup is over, he again gets the cough. Now this time, it's much worse than before. When the cough gets worse, now he thinks that the cough syrup doesn't work. It didn't work, therefore I have to go to the doctor again. And he gets to the doctor. When he goes to the doctor and meets him, he says that the cough syrup was working fine, but as soon as I stopped it, I got this cough again, and it is much worse than before. Can you please help me? Then the doctor says, okay, let's see, do you smoke cigarettes? Then the man says, of course, I have been smoking for 20 long years, and I'm a chain smoker now. Now the doctor is alarmed. Now he orders a chest x-ray. And by examining the chest x-ray, he thinks that there is something very fishy in there. Therefore, he refers this patient to a chest physician who is a consultant doctor regarding the lungs. So when he is referred to the chest physician, he asks the patient, he requests a biopsy, an endoscopic guided biopsy. So they insert a small camera through the nostrils and they go into the lungs, and under direct vision of the endoscopic camera, they take a small sample from the lungs without damaging it, without massively damaging it. So the biopsy report comes and it says that there's a lung cancer. Now, dear children, do you think that the chest physician, this doctor, would treat the cough? Now he has a diagnosis at his hand, which is the lung cancer. The cough is the symptom. If you ask the patient, he is worried about the cough. He doesn't even know that he had a cancer. But to the doctor, cough is just a symptom. And with careful analysis of the symptoms, now he has arrived at a correct diagnosis, which is the cancer. After arriving at the diagnosis, the doctor targets all the treatment to eradicate the root cause of the disease. That means the cancer. If we eradicate the cancer, what do you think? What will happen to the cough? Will the cough be still there after eradication of the cancer? What do you think? Of course, it would go away. The cough was there because of the cancer. When we eradicate the cancer, the cough goes away with it. You don't have to treat it separately. My dear children, the mind also works the same way. There's a symptom in the mind, and there's a disease in the mind as well. If we fail to differentiate the difference between the two, we might start treating the symptoms, like that man who consumed cough syrup to suppress the cough. No matter how hard they suppress the cough, when he has finished consuming his cough syrup, the cough will recur. He would again suffer with the cough. Dear children, if that man thinks, when he gets the cough again after consuming the cough syrup, if he thinks that I'm getting the cough syrup because I don't have cough syrup, then he wouldn't go to the doctor again, but he will go to the pharmacy, to the drug dispenser, and he would produce the same prescription provided by the doctor 5 days ago, and he would take another bottle of cough syrup. What would happen? Of course, the cough will be suppressed again for another 5 days. And at the end of 10 days, that means the second set of 5 days, he would think that, okay, I'm getting this cough because I don't have the cough syrup. The absence of cough syrup is the cause for my cough. If he thinks like that, can he get away from this cycle? Dear children, absence of anything will not give rise to presence of something. If there's a manifestation of an effect, that is always because the presence of a cause. But what would happen if the man thinks that he's getting the cough because of the absence of cough syrup? Now he keeps on taking the cough syrup. If actually absence of cough syrup produce the cough, everyone should be getting the cough. Everyone who doesn't consume the cough syrup, they should also have the cough. That itself proves that absence of cough syrup doesn't give rise to the cough. My dear children, therefore, the reason that the people say the cause of suffering is absence of something is illogical, and that doesn't make any sense. If there's a suffering, there should always be a cause which is present. Therefore, let's identify this cause precisely. If the suffering is in the mind, what do you think the cause should lie? Where should the cause lie for the suffering in the mind to be manifested? Can the cause be in somewhere else and suffering be in the mind? Of course not. The cause should always be in the mind. Therefore, if people say that I suffer because I don't have enough money, is money in the mind? No, money is in the outside world. Can you suffer because of the mind? Can the suffering occur in the mind because of something which is absent in the outside? That is nonsensical. The only logical way to explain this is the cause should be present in your mind. So, what is this cause for this stress or the suffering? Dear children, if we expect something, that is the cause of suffering which is in the mind. Expectation, or in other words, wantings, will make us suffer. Dear children, the suffering that we feel is just a symptom of a disease. The disease is these expectations or the wantings. I don't mean to say that don't have any expectations, because it's not you who have the expectation. Expectations are manifested in the mind. You cannot delete them like just a flick of a second, because it's not you who created them. Expectations are created in some mechanism. Let's analyze it. Some people always think that if you don't have any expectations, what a negative attitude is that? Dear children, not having expectation doesn't mean that you don't have any target. As I told you before, the great elder Mahakassapa, he organized this first Sangha Council, which was a tremendous task. And he had his goals, but he didn't have any expectations. He didn't have any wantings. He didn't have his own way of this should happen in this way. Therefore, he was not suffering. Suffering was not there in his mind. But he did everything. You don't have to have those expectations to perform tasks. Yes, you have to have some goals. You have to do these things. You have to go to the field and you have to perform, of course. Nothing wrong with that. But what good does an expectation or a wanting brings you? It only brings you suffering. My dear children, have the goal to pass your exam, but expectations, wantings will only bring you suffering or distress. You can still pass your exam without the wanting to pass the exam in your mind. This might sound very strange to some of you because you have not had any experience. How do I know this? I also were like you. When I first heard this, I also thought that how can you pass an exam without expecting for it? But believe me, you can do that. You can do everything without having expectations, without wanting to do it. I'm talking about the mental wanting that is there in the mind. That wanting will only give you the suffering or the unwanted, unnecessary stress. Therefore, my dear children, because of these wantings, suffering will occur in the mind. So, in our future discussions, we'll talk about what are the causes of these wantings. Therefore, once we eradicate of it, we can make ourselves free from this suffering. Having that in our mind, we can conclude our today's session. So, out of the merits that we have acquired, we may be able to understand and comprehend these teachings better than we ever understood before. So, let us have a moment to spread the merits and rejoice in these merits that we have acquired today. So, if any of our ancestors have been born in the woeful plains, may they redeem themselves from the woeful plains and be born in the blissful plains. May through the power of these merits, may they abstain from unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble little path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.